Govan Whittles joins us now to unpack that story further. Govan, have we heard from the new leadership of the South African Communist Party yet?
Not just yet, Annelie, and the reason why is because conference has been very delayed. At the moment, they're still wrapping up the outcomes of commissions and then conducting voting for the additional members of the Central Committee. Then they'll formulate those commission decisions into resolutions of conference. And then we're expecting to hear from the leadership. We have asked to speak to the leadership while the voting is underway to pose a few questions on the outcome of the election, because they do raise a few questions about the SACP. Firstly, the fact that this conference was contested is really an anomaly in the SACP's history. But secondly, that the margins by which Blade Nzimande won for the position of national chairperson against Gwebs Konde had been revised, initially reported as 266 against 148 votes. They've clarified that it was actually 226 against 148 votes. That makes it a much narrower victory and provides more insight into what's currently happening in the SACP. The fact that the conference does seem to be divided along factions, and the job of the incoming leadership would be to address that. It's interesting to note that this happened not only for the position of national chairperson, but also deputy national chairperson and treasurer general. So the opponents of Blade Nzimande clearly formulating a slate to contest against him and his preferred allies. So exactly what that means for the party and whether it's actually divided all the way to the provinces and branches, as suggested, is something that we hope to engage the leadership on. But the SACP does have a new general secretary. Mapaila was elected unopposed. The conference lauded the outgoing or former General Secretary Blade Nzimande for succession planning, and many of the delegates here say they're quite happy with Mapaila in charge of the South African Communist Party. How that Central Committee will look and how the new leaders will work together following those results for the top 5 positions is obviously speculation at this point, but we do hope to pose a few of those questions.
Govan, you're saying that for the first time in the SACP's history, this conference has been contested and that the conference seems to be divided along factional lines. How does that mirror the situation of its tripartite alliance, the ANC? And do you think that has any influence on the SACP's internal structures?
Well, it might have some influence, particularly as the SACP endorses candidates towards the end, towards the national conference in December. And well, this is the first time they're contested, at least since their unbanning. So since then, they've been able to consolidate leadership preferences leading up to a national conference. It looked like for a while there that they were going to do the same thing here, because the provinces all elected their leaders unanimously with no opposition. But of course, that didn't happen. And the reasons behind the contestation are still being discussed by delegates, and its implications are also still being discussed. And it looks like you've come to us at a good time, Annelie. The leadership of the SACP is walking in now. So it looks like we may begin, although it doesn't look like we'll begin immediately. Here you see the newly elected leadership of the South African Communist Party. There's the new national chairperson, Dr. Blade Nzimande, taking his seat. We expect the general secretary of the party to come in a short while. And at that moment, I suppose you guys could come back to us, and then we'll be able to do the press briefing and pose those questions that we've been holding.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Govan Whittles, coming to us from the SACP elective conference.